Hello, welcome back to After Reality. Today's episode is truly special because my guest isn't just someone who has studied Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., she's somebody who has witnessed history. She owns and operates the legendary tourist company. I'm honored to welcome Wanda Battle, former curator of the Dexter Avenue King Memorial Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, and somebody who has actually met Dr. King when she was young. My husband, Umberto, met Wanda while he was in Montgomery for a legal conference. And that experience stayed with him and honestly stayed with our whole family. Every time we sing This Little Light of Mine, we think about the moment she invited him to come up and sing with him with the whole group. He texted me afterwards, like, I just sang on stage. Anyway, Wanda is not only a witness to the past, she's a breath of fresh air in the present. To her, love is a lifestyle. She is truly love and light, and you can feel it in the moment she speaks. She is the definition of unity, of community. Wanda Battle, I am so grateful you're here. Welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Courtney.
Oh gosh, I mean what I say. You are a household name in our house. My husband, before we had three kids, who's here, I want to see if you remember this face. We sing This Little Light of Mine because he did a tour. The thing I love about my husband is he's very curious. He was there for a legal conference and he's like, I'm gonna go check out the Dexter Museum. Most people would just be like, oh, I'm gonna be lazy in my hotel. And the experience really stuck with him for sure. So I don't know if you remember my husband, but he's here before he heads off to work. Here's Umberto. You sang This Little Light of Mine.
I did. Good morning, Miss Wanda. So great to see
Hey,
you
good
again.
morning. Good
Yeah,
morning, Umberto. Very happy to put your face now with your name. Because,
yeah.
after so many years, you lose faces or you lose names. So I am so happy to have you on and to see you
I did.
again.
Courtney asked me to come on and tell the story real quick, and I said absolutely, I'd love to. Again, very good to see you. Your name has stayed in our house for about 6 years now. We do think of you
Yeah.
when we sing this little light of mine. And I'll try and be brief. I don't want to take up all you girls' time. But so February of 2020, I was an assistant attorney general with the Arizona Attorney General's office, and I was sent out to Montgomery for a legal conference. I had a friend who had actually gone before me and told me about the experience and actually said he went there to the church as well and just kind of how Montgomery, how pleasant it was. So I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to go. But when I go, I want to see the sights. I want to go check out history and do the thing, right? So I think we were there
Yeah.
for a total of 3 days. And I believe it was the last day. It was a half day. I had the privilege to go to the Dexter Church, Martin Luther King Jr.'s church, and I just thought it was fantastic. My mind was blown. By that point, I had seen the monuments throughout Montgomery as I would walk around and kind of tour. I went to the Rosa Parks Museum. I think,
Yes.
and a lot of us did from the conference. I think that was kind of if you wanted to, part of a scheduled event. And I absolutely did that. And I thought that was fabulous too. But there was something about going to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s church that was really special. And I'll never forget walking inside and seeing I believe it was the piano. There was like the old piano, and it was like
Yes.
where the original part of the church. I remember walking into the actual church with all the organs in the back, and it was very. I told my wife it's very tiny.
Oh,
Back then,
yes.
how tiny everything was. It was small. And so I walk in, and I think I'm towards the front. I'm the only person from my conference. I might have been wearing shorts and a hoodie or something. So it was very casual. I didn't know what to expect, but you brought us in. That was the beginning of the tour. So we waited. You had to buy a ticket or whatever it was. I had maybe the 11 o'clock tour, 12 o'clock tour. It might have been before a flight. And we're up in the front, everybody's sitting, and I think you either come in or walk us in there. And then you said, I need some volunteers, and I need some people to come up with me and sing. And I am not a volunteer to sing and dance person. So I think I was told nicely to come up, and I said, absolutely, Miss One, I'll come up. So you grabbed about 10 of us, and there's probably a group of 50 to 60 tourists, there. I remember I told Courtney there's a couple buses. It was really cool for kids to go, and they all wore their same matching shirts from the school. It was just a really cool
Oh,
experience. They got to go see history and witness this, and I was alone. So we go up, you invite us up, and the song is This Little Light of Mine. So we're doing This Little Light of Mine, I'm gonna let it shine. And we might have sang it two or three times, but that was the start to get everybody kind of energized and happy and feeling good. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. And then you went on, you gave us a tour, you told us, talked about history and Dr. Martin Luther King and everything that went on in that church. And then I believe after that is kind of when we toured a lot of it. But I thought it was great. I thought it was Montgomery was great. There were part of it was I believe I could fill out a form or maybe something that says, do you want to receive a newsletter? And I believe from you or you on behalf of the church or the tour. And I said, absolutely. So I filled it out. So every year for a couple of years, we'd get an email from Wanda. And I'd forward it to my wife. I'd tell, hey, Wanda's still there, and I told her about it. I called her when I left. I text messaged her probably when I was there. And yeah, it just really, hit home with me. It stuck with me. I thought it was beautiful. It was fantastic. And here we are today. I'm so happy my wife reached out. I imagine you'll be a fantastic interview, and I really hope you're doing well. And yeah, I
And we
think that
sing
pretty
it
much
to our
we
kids.
sing it to the kids. They know, and we do the hands and this. Yeah, we do the whole thing. So really, really appreciate you and what you do and what you did. And yeah, we remember you.
Want to say this to you. I want to say thank you for sharing the experience of it because I never really know when people leave out what they are really taking away with them, what part of it, because you're not going to be able to remember everything that was said. And so I'm very happy to know that the songs of freedom that are shared were really taken to heart because even though this little light of mine was a song that was like out of the church. And it was one of the protest songs and the sit in mass meeting songs during the 1950s and 60s. But I like singing it on my tours because that's who we are on the planet.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
probably shared it with you. That's what I want you to take away that I'm a light in this world. And so I've got to do something with it and let it shine through love and through compassion and appreciation of various people, diverse people. And so I'm happy to know that you all are teaching your children the song. And then the other part is that not only is Dexter a global landmark, it's a global landmark. Even before Dr. King came, because it was the upper middle class, a
Yeah.
community who attended that church, and they've had many historic pastors. But with Dr. King coming, it just put it even more like the beacon on the hill. And
Right,
so
right.
I was so blessed to serve there as a tour guide. So thank you
Yeah.
so much,
It was,
Umberto.
thank you. It was great. No joke. We talk about it a couple times a year. Your name comes up, and the whole experience that I had there. I thought it was a great time. At some point, I would love to, everything willing to be able to make a trip out there because I just thought it was a really special place. All the history out there. I would love for my kids to experience that someday. But yeah, you two have fun. It was a great experience. I'm glad you two are connecting and talking, and I hope you have a great day. So
Thank you very much.
one more time for the cheap seats. This little light of
Light of
mine.
mine,
Oh,
gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, let it shine, let it shine, let it
Y-
shine.
Your voice is so much better than mine. That's not fair.
have a good day at
Promise
work.
to
Have a
jump
great
in
day.
there.
Okay, now
Bye.
it's just the girls. I wondered if you brought him up
Yes.
because he's kind of cute. You probably don't remember people and that often. I mean, if he said there's 50 people on tour,
Ooh, that's a lot of people. But I'm so glad to see him again.
I know he's
Because you
pretty
know something?
cute.
Yeah, I take more pictures than my visitors, Courtney. So if I were to go back to that day, I'm sure I have a photograph
Oh,
that particular tour
I have
group.
been asking him for so long. Do you have a photo? I want a photo of this.
I'm going to go
Okay.
back and check.
Okay, well, I am so happy to be here and connect. I mean, there's so much that I want to dive in with you today. Like I said in my intro, you are the definition of love and light. And I've obviously done my research on you and we've talked about you. We're like, Wanda, Wanda. But I guess to get started, I wanted to give you the stage, Wanda. For anybody meeting you for the first time, how do you introduce yourself, your story, your female, how do I say this? Griot? You're a talented singer, as we just heard, and I can't say the word. I'm sorry. You're just gonna have
Jolly Muso is a female. It's either Jolly Muso or Jolly Musa. But in West Africa, that is the female griot, meaning the female storyteller, entertainer. And so I took on the name Jolly Muso as a female storyteller and entertainer because I love music, dance, and drama. And
to.
sharing, as I share the stories, I like to incorporate it with some energy and drama to it.
Ugh, I
Music.
love that. I think that's why we've connected too. I just love magic and music is like obviously we sing to my kids. I make them we dance all the time and it just sparks so much joy. So could you take the stage a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself? Obviously, we just gave you a little bit of an intro, but you are a Montgomery native.
Yes.
When you think of history, that's what you think about, and you lived in it. But I would love to hear how, let's say somebody is going on one of your tours, which good on you. You are now the owner and operator of Legendary Tours. I'm coming out there. That's a warning. But what's like one of the first things that you say on a tour? I guess that's a good leading the witness.
The first thing I do is introduce myself. And I always tell people I'm Wanda Battle, owner of Legendary Tours. And I start off talking about having been born on the west side of Montgomery, talking about my family and the courageous people who took a stand against segregation
Mm.
and changed the world, through the courage and their commitment, to make a difference and to improve the community and how we were living. And so I was born September 11th, 1956. So I was born towards the end of the Montgomery bus boycott.
Oh, wow.
So, and I grew up through the 1960s, through the 1965 Selma to Montgomery March. And because my family were involved, my father passed away in 1962 when I was just 5 years of age.
Mm.
So I didn't remember him in terms of being in the movement, but my mother and my two older sisters, they were very involved. My mother in 1965, when President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, my mother helped to get people registered to vote. And so the Montgomery Improvement Association, their second office, Courtney, was 1 block from our house on a street called Dorsey Street that no longer exists because of the I-65/85 interstate coming in. The federal government brought through that urban renewal program and just wiped out our homes, gave my mother $3,500 for our house. And I'm just saying this to just say that the West Side, they intentionally came through and demolished our businesses and homes because of the movement, of the civil rights movement. And I stand to fight against segregation in this city. So with that, I honor my parents and the people of the Black community who took that stand once it was announced that Mrs. Rosa Parks had been arrested, and Joanne Robinson and attorney Fred Gray came up with the idea for the Montgomery bus boycott. It just took off from there, and here we are. It's all changed the world because that small West Side community took a stand.
And that's what I love that you talk about unity of community and making a stance, which we're going to get there. But I'm sorry about your dad's passing at such an early age, but you are one of 8 children. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
And I believe your parents knew Dr. King and his lovely wife, and maybe we'll get to that. But so, what is that like for your mom when you're talking about, was it 1965 and everything? Do you remember what that was like? Because your mom has 8 children. Do you remember what that was like experiencing that?
I absolutely do. I never had the opportunity to meet Dr. King because I was so young, but my mother knew him very well, and so did my two older sisters, because they were organizers of that Selma to Montgomery March. When the march got to St. Jude Catholic Institute, which was the fourth campus, it's called the City of St. Jude, but it was the fourth campus of the Selma to Montgomery March. And my two sisters organized the three Black high schools, because there was the St. Jude Educational Institute, Carver, George Washington Carver High School, and Booker T. Washington High School. Those are the three Black high schools. And so they organized the young people at each of the schools. They organized to get leaders in each, and they organized so that at a certain time, when they were going to walk out of school to walk that last leg of the Selma to Montgomery March, to march to the Alabama State Capitol. And as a young girl, was looking at them as if they were grown. They were like 14 and 15 years of age. But I admire to this day their courage and the heart that they had of leadership to step into those roles. And I just see God in it. And the work that I'm doing right now, I'm walking in the path.
Yes,
I'm walking in the footsteps.
Oh.
And I'm so honored. I really am.
Well, I am just honored to have you here and be in the presence of greatness, which to me, I really am. I've been looking forward to chatting with you. And obviously Martin Luther King Day is here and upon us. And I just will just breathe it in and sigh it out. But I can't imagine what that was like growing up for you with 8 siblings, and your mom must have just been remarkable. I
She
mean,
absolutely was. My mother was a cosmetologist. They used to call them beauticians back in the day.
Avon calling, remember that?
Oh, absolutely. And so my mother used to do hair at home, but she also taught cosmetology at a vocational school in Greenville High School. And with my father having passed in 1962, and I was so young, and we were really all young, it placed a responsibility on whoever was the oldest at home was in charge. So everybody, now I don't remember being in charge of anybody. I was the one being taken care of, myself and the two younger sisters.
Really? Do you have any
Yeah. Well,
brothers?
I have
What's the
one.
lineup?
Okay. So there was Princella,
Love that name.
Barbara, we call her Barbara Ann. Then there was my brother, and then my sister Ruby,
Okay.
Wilhelmina,
Ooh.
myself, Lavisha, and Felice.
Wow.
Well, Courtney, now there are only 4 of us remaining. And it is
Oh.
amazing to me that 4 of us have already, transitioned to the ancestors and with the ancestors. And so I even more am more convicted in my heart to live my best life. I don't take any day for granted. In fact, I'm going to say that for all of my sisters that are remaining. We don't take any day for granted. We love on each other. We travel the world. There are 3 of us that travel extensively because our work being in tourism, we're always encouraging people to embrace other cultures and diversities. And my mother was like that. She liked to travel as well. And so through her travel and her love for people and the work that she did, her kitchen table was a platform for her to really get to know people. She'd feed you and learn all about your life and give all type of wisdom.
Ugh.
And so before we go on, I want to say that students from Harvard and Yale who started the Southern Courier newspaper, you may have seen that in the background or so, but many of them stayed in our home. And so we got to know many of them well because they were college students who started that newspaper to cover the stories in the Black community during the civil rights movement of that time. And so it was for us little children that were younger, me being about 8 years of age by 1965, that was just so inspiring to us. And we loved every moment. I can't say we understood all of it, but we understood enough that we lived in a segregated community and that our community was protecting us, and they were at the same time training us in
Mm.
nonviolence and to take courage.
Mm. My goodness, which, gosh, I mean, that was his with the march and stuff. We're going to get to that. But, you know, Dr. Martin Luther King was always lead with love, and love conquers all, so to speak. And do you remember at that age or that young age in the climate that you were in ever feeling scared or, were there certain rules to be abided by living? I mean, you lived it.
Yes. Yes, there absolutely were. Not only did our parents give us the talk
Mm,
before we left home, the talk was about being kind,
mm,
being courteous to people that are older than you. You could not call somebody by their first name. You said, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. And we were taught to be cautious. And especially if we were going through communities outside of our West Side community, because they knew the dangers. And so we all got the talk, and it wasn't just only from my family, but from other people out in the community, because we lived next door to our teachers, our preachers, the mechanic, everybody was right there on the west side, other than those who lived in Centennial Hill. And if you know anything about Centennial Hill, that's where the upper middle class Black people lived. They were business owners, educators,
mm.
pastors, of churches. So they had another level of income. But the rest of us, we lived here on the West Side, and we were taught to respect each other and
Mm,
to love and help one another. Just as Dr. King said, love and help somebody
mm.
every day. Mhm.
And did you guys go to church? I hate to say religiously, but was that, I mean, I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but like, was it
Yes,
a,
that's the right thing to say.
thanks, Wanda.
You had to go to church. When we were growing up, the church was really the foundation of our community. And that was a part of the success of the Montgomery bus boycott, was that the pastors worked together. They were friends and they coordinated their efforts together. It didn't matter about denomination. So during the summertime, I don't know if you've heard of Vacation Bible School.
Mm-mm.
They would schedule vacation Bible schools so that, like, my family attended Mount Zion AME Zion Church. We would have a week or two of vacation Bible school there. Then we would go to Day Street Baptist Church, First CME Church. We would just take, weeks to attend each other's vacation Bible school so that everybody was supported. And I thought that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I mean, I
Yes.
went to summer camp and summer school because I was horrible in school. Oh my gosh. Well, I really appreciate you sharing, giving us a taste of what the climate was like back then. And the sense of community is really coming through. And that's something that I am actively working on as a mom of three. And we're living in a really tough time. There's a lot of heavy stuff. I've listened to you on another show where sometimes the news is just too heavy and I just have to like, I love my shows. I call them my stories or my Netflix shows and what fills my cup. So I always say can't pour from an empty cup, but there's a lot of wild stuff going on right now. And I thought it'd be great to have you on because you really are a breath of fresh air and to touch on, Martin Luther King as well as just what you're doing for the community and hopefully inspire people or uplift them because it's a heavy time right now.
Yes. I truly believe that this is really a time of communication and engagement. And I shared on all of my tours the engagement of just having conversations about all of these human rights issues that are overwhelming us and hearing it and feeding it into our spirits every day. We must have honest conversations about how we feel about it. What are our thoughts? Because that's what's going to get us through this season. And that's what lightens me on days when I feel so heavy
Hmm.
again about the next thing has happened. Because on yesterday, when the woman was killed in
Oh, and
was
Minnesota,
it Minnesota,
yes,
that and I just had a meltdown.
same.
But I just saying to all of us, we're all in the same boat, but we must remain hopeful that change is going to come. And my thing is always coming back to me because I believe that however I believe and how I then respond to whatever is going on within me, that is going to make a difference on what's going to happen in regards to who am connecting with through the day. Because either I can share hope or I can share my devastation. And I do have friends and people who I call in, I'm honest about what I'm feeling. Well, I cry right there in the moment. But at the
Mm.
same time, we go on because in the sharing, we find a comfort being able to say, I'm overwhelmed. I'm so sorry for the family that's now left behind, that little girl that is left behind with no mother and father. And I believe that as we continue to stay connected to one another, our unity is our strength. It's not in internalizing and being silent. No, go do something good with it. Go help out in the community. Keep serving people and being patient and kind. I think that's the only way we'll overcome is with love.
Wanda. Yes, yes. And I'm striving towards that because I'm can be like you said, cry on a dime. And we were actually set to record yesterday and I was just in my feels about the whole thing and it didn't work out. And I think that there's a reason for that. Well, I'm just hoping that this inspires anybody because it's hard to take actionable items sometimes when there's so much going on and you do have to protect your peace. But so you own Legendary Tours, and I think that you are. I can't wait. I really want to come out. My dad was so excited for me to have you on. He's been dying to get out there. He's like a history buff. But I wanted to take a moment to talk about your tours and let people really lean into it. So, and that's kind of what you're doing. I mean, you're out there, boots on the ground, teaching. I don't know how often you run a tour, but do you have a signature story or detail that you share? Or, I mean, I'm sure there's so many that always gets a reaction.
Absolutely. My own personal story. When I got to Dexter, I had experienced so much. Back some years ago, I had been suicidal twice and I'd been homeless. And
No
was
way.
and I told a group that I toured yesterday, I was sharing with them how was sitting on a bench in Lincoln Park in Chicago, just crying my eyes out because neither I nor my husband knew where we were going
Mm,
because we couldn't afford the money for the transient hotel for the next week. And I was telling them how ashamed I was for so many years, and I beat myself up and couldn't forgive myself because of the decisions I made that got me there. And I told them, but as the years passed, while I was sitting in my house, just truly just broken, quiet, because I couldn't stand any noise, no telephone, internet, anything, radio, any of that going. But as I sat there, and it took about 3 years, as I sat, the God began to speak through his Holy Spirit and tell me about other people too. He says, Wanda, he said, other people have broken places too. And he says, you're going to have to forgive those people that hurt you or you felt hurt you. And as I sat there and as I went through that period and began to really examine out what got me there, and I realized, okay, God, I'm going to need your help to get through this. And I can't tell you when it happened, but it was like I stepped over a door threshold. And I was telling them yesterday, it's like stepping out of the kitchen to the dining room or a
mm.
bedroom to the bathroom. And fear left me. And God helped me understand the foundation of self-doubt, unforgiveness, and hatred is fear.
Mhm.
And when fear left, life has totally changed. When I got to Dexter, I thought I would never tell anybody about being suicidal and being homeless. But I got there and God began to teach me that all of those things that had happened back there that I thought I would tell nobody about, he says that's a part of your purpose. And I'm going to use it now to help you help other people understand what true humanity is all about. And that it begins with you. It begins with your love for me and your relationship with me because I love you. And now once you accept the fact that you love you too, and that there's nothing you could do that's not forgivable.
Wow,
And I
Wanda.
freed myself. It was like, and all I can tell you, it was a divine impartation because I had beaten myself up for so long. And so what I was sharing is that once fear left me, I have been able to accomplish so many things. Where I had told TBN I wouldn't record music for their inspirational programs. For a year and a half, I told the producer, no, I can't do that. Because I was telling myself, girl, you know, your voice isn't good enough to go get on TV. Well, after the fear left me, I recorded for, I think, 2 years. And I was so grateful for that experience. It really strengthened me to step beyond what I thought was fear, and to really step into my calling, my purpose.
Your
And so
power.
I'm my power, yes. And so I was telling the students, say yes to many things. Instead of being afraid, step into it. I say, all God's going to do is show you who He's really made you to be and the many gifts and abilities He's put within you to love and help people and to inspire other people. So that's what I do. I sing on the tours. It doesn't matter whether your voice is all that great. It's about getting up there and stepping out of your comfort zone
Like my
and
husband.
having fun. Yeah, that's what it did. And he just said it. He said, "You sing it with my children." I kept that song in my heart. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Oh,
Sharon,
I feel it from head to toe. And so, to walk it back a little bit, when you were having those, and I think I've shared my hard times. I in my past had a really tough time and dealt with depression, anxiety, all these things that I feel like, I'm a spiritual person and I believe that we are all the same. You could be black, white, Mexicasian, half Mexican. I'm part Native American. I've studied, you know, the Buddha. I've read so many books. I've always had this longing of like personal development and the pursuit of happiness is what I call it. But that's not to be said that I've had some really hard times, and it sounds like you have too, and you've pulled yourself out of it by your bootstraps and really are shining. Is there anything that you could say, like actionable items, like if you're at a low point in your life, whether it be praying or how to, you kind of just talked about it, like stepping, that was a beautiful description, but any advice that you could give somebody who might be going through a hard time right now to take some actionable items? I would call it like slipping into the couch when you feel like you just are stuck and you can't move forward.
I'm going to say inhale, hold it, and then exhale. Have honest talks with yourself. Really accept the fact that you're not good at everything and that you have, cracks and faults as well, and that it's okay. And allow yourself to forgive yourself.
Mm.
And because when you allow yourself to forgive you, then you will extend grace to other people too. And you'll find it more easy to say, thank you. I love you. Will you forgive me, please? I was wrong and you were right. And I would tell the men on my tours and say, yes, dear. But when you do these things and you find it easier to ask forgiveness and then to be forgiven, and do not compare yourself to anybody else.
Mm.
Every one of us are unique. That was a part of my suicidal tendency because I spent so many years comparing that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't pretty enough, smart enough, talented enough. And because I did that with people, it just kept me, it, it was a barrier, and it just kept me in this grip of fear. And I say to people, yes, we love, and especially the teenage girls,
Mm.
because that's the second highest suicide rate is our teenage girls. Transgender children are the highest. But I was telling the young ladies on the tour yesterday, they were ninth graders. I said, you all know the names of the four Kardashian sisters. I said, call them out. They called each name. Well, I said, I love them so much myself, but I'm not trying to be them. I say it's expensive for them to be them.
Ain't that the truth? And I grew up in a time with dial-up and a phone call where a boy had to call and get to your dad to get you on a date, and a product of the 80s. But with the social media and the comparison, I would have a really hard time with that. And I'm now dealing with, I mean, my oldest is almost 6, but how much I'm going to let them use their tablets. And, it's just a different time and navigating that and trying to keep my kids sheltered. But anywho, that's a story for another time. But Wanda, thank you for sharing that. That's very vulnerable. And I really, I'm a vessel to help inspire and share people's stories. And you are a remarkable person. And, Martin Luther King Day's coming up. And, I would like to shift gears a little bit to help inspire people. And it's not just a day off from school. You have
That
lived
is
it.
correct.
You are a witness. You live it. You are boots on the ground. And something my husband touched on, I know you're not, do you tour, Dexter, still on your tours or?
No.
Okay.
No, I no longer am allowed to tour on in the church on their
Okay.
tours. They've restructured their program so their membership conducts the tours there.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm able to take groups there, but they do their own tour. So I
Oh,
accompany my group on the tour, but they oversee the tour.
well, you worked there for a long time. If those walls could talk, what do you think they would say? I mean,
Well, for me, they would sing for one thing, and and they would have a lot to say about the many generations of people who have come through that church and sat on those pews. And I share that on the tour. I say, where you're sitting right now, can you imagine how many people have sat in that place through the generations from 1889 when they first started having services, or 1885 downstairs was the original, church worship. But then Thanksgiving Day 1889, they had service upstairs when the church was completed on Thanksgiving Day. But it would have a lot of history, good and challenging to say. Yeah, a lot of things have happened in that church. Some good, some bad.
okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I've read the stories, and since you do a lot of tours and you meet a lot of people, I'm sure you get a lot of fan mail. Obviously, you've touched our hearts. Is that, I mean, how do you connect with how do you personally deal with that, connecting with so many people and energies and educating and all this stuff? That's a lot to navigate, Wanda.
It is, Courtney, because I'm in a place right now where I'm really having to um, think, how can I really step back into that place where your husband was mentioning? I used to have a newsletter for 3 years,
Yeah.
and it just got to be a lot in doing the work and then creating the content
Mm.
uh, to put all of that together. And it got a little overwhelming after a while. But I'm really thinking, how can I now really reach out to the masses using social media? Because that's the greatest way for those who may not necessarily have toured with me and for those who have toured with me. Because many people who've toured with me, either they come back, send their children and friends and family, and my business grows by word of mouth, and I stay pretty busy. So I think that's a challenge to answer that, but at the same time, I think as I just continue to do the work and people take the stories just as your husband did, I think that's a great way to keep the message going. The other thing I'm working on too is I'm writing a book called I'm Just Saying. Because I've been telling my tours all these years, you may not believe everything I say, but I'm just saying.
Well, you
And
and I
so
can talk offline. I'd be happy to help point you. I think we all get overwhelmed by social media for one. I do my podcast and sometimes it's failure to launch because I do it myself. It's my baby and to promote it. And
Yes.
And I'm sure you're tired at the end of the day. Like, you know, you gotta rest because you are, I mean, essentially the star of the show and you're curating this beautifully. So I'd be happy to help you with that. And then I also wrote a book as well. And I think everybody has a story to tell. Everybody should write a book, whether it's published by HarperCollins or self-published. So maybe that's another reason we connected because that's something like you talking about this, you've lived it. It's easy for you. You're speaking from the heart. I can speak from my heart to your heart. I've been through those, I've jumped through the hoops. So, you know, I ran, so hopefully I can help you walk and help offline. I'll reach out to you if I can help in any way and be of service. But that
That would
is
be wonderful.
yes, I mean,
Thank you.
I'm all about collaborating and community. I think two heads, two hearts are better than one. So I would love that because you whatever I can do to help, whatever I can do to help. But kind of circling back on Martin Luther King, is there we were talking about your tours, which everybody, you know, you've got your website, you can book a tour through that. And I, like I said, my dad wants to come, but to kind of walk it back, you know, where do we even go from here? What did I miss about Montgomery and you already painted a picture of what Montgomery felt like in the 1950s,
Yes.
socially, culturally. Dr. King arrived as pastor in 1954. He was still incredibly young. And I know that you know about the pastor that was before him as well, which he was paving the way. Am I right? And
That is absolutely correct. Reverend Vernon Johns. He
mhm.
pastored Dexter from 1947 to 1952. And he was this very controversial, very blunt, frank person who would tell you whatever he wanted you to know.
I
And
love
he
that
was
kind of personality.
I know. When I was reading Stride Toward Freedom, which is Dr. King's first book, Dr. King was describing him as a man who had a photographic memory, who could recite scripture and literature hours on end and long passages. And he was a Greek and Latin scholar and just this amazing, brilliant man. But in his personality, if he didn't like you, he would tell you why he didn't like you and you can take it however you chose. So, but God was using Vernon Johns to speak to Dexter to get them ready. As I look back on the history, they used his personality. It was to get Dexter ready for what was coming with Dr. King, because the church
Interesting.
had visiting preachers between that 1952, 1954 time period, you know, between pastors. And Vernon Johns really spoke to them because he wanted to usher them out of that place of fear to take a stand against the segregation. And he said, "You are the leaders in the community. You should be leading this.
Mhm.
You shouldn't allow all of these murders and rapes, you know." And of course,
Oh,
as you know, he would post the sermon titles out on front of the church, you know. It's safe to murder Negroes in Montgomery, and when the rapist is white. Those were two of his sermon titles. And so I thank God for him because he was, as some people say, the John the Baptist to Dr. King's coming.
mm.
And I hope if you haven't read Parting the Waters by Taylor Branch, read that first chapter because he dedicates it talking about Reverend Vernon Johns, and he was a powerful, very brilliant, and visionary for his time that has now ushered us in as we take his spirit because it's needed right now.
Hmm.
People who are courageous. And so we must continue that work that Vernon Johns, Dr. King, Rosa Parks, all of these many people whose names are not even in history books, who took a stand. And now we're walking in this season of that same movement for
Hmm.
love and justice and peace for all mankind. So
Hmm.
we must not be afraid to do this work. In fact, one of my quotes is to answer the call of God for the call of love, we must do this work no matter the cost. So let me repeat that again because I think I I twisted it. To answer the call of God for the cause of love, we must do this work no matter the cost, because it's going to cost us something. Yeah, to love and to
Mm.
change to make humanity better. But we must do it.
Let's put that as your first Instagram post. I don't know if you do Instagram. Um, and oh gosh, that really hit my whole soul right there. Wanda, oh my gosh. And to circle back on your parents, were they a part of the bus boycott directly or indirectly?
I, I've been looking for pictures of my dad involved, but my father and his two brothers owned four businesses in this city. Courtney, they owned Howard and Howard's Funeral Home, Good Service Taxi, Good Service Shoe Shine, and Good Service Barbershop. The only surviving business is the barbershop, and it is now a full service salon,
No
which
way.
operates here in Montgomery, downtown. And it's called Howard's Hairstylers and Designers. And my two cousins who run it now, they were 13 and 10 years of age when my father turned the business over for my cousin who is now 87. He was 13 years of age when my father made him manager over the shop. So that means he was managing persons who were adults.
Is that where you get your hair did? That what a
It
legacy.
is. The one that is 74 cuts my hair every 2 weeks. His
Ah,
name is Lloyd. Lloyd Howard and Prince Albert, P.A. Howard, we call him. P.A. was named after my father. My father was Prince Albert Howard Jr., and my cousin is Prince Albert Howard III. And so
mm.
he's the 87-year-old, and that neither one of them have ever worked any other job. They've always been master barbers. And I'm so grateful to them and I honor them and I'm inspired by them. When I'm sitting in that chair, they're pouring out business tips and talking about the movement and what took place back then.
I would love to be a fly on the wall. That just sounds like a good time. It really does. Well, gosh, I've taken up a lot of your time and we've touched on the history of and so many topics. I've been thrilled to have you. You know, is there anything for Martin Luther King Day that you could, I don't know, share with people other than just an Instagram quote or something like that, that if they want to educate themselves more, you've already shared some great resources,
Yes. I would say go
maybe something
along with read.
meaningful.
Okay, so Dr. King had many quotes, but one of my favorites, and I want to give one from Dr. King and one from Mrs. Coretta Scott King, because I don't want you all I want you to understand that she was as committed to the cause of human rights and social justice as Dr. King was. So I want to say darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. That's Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Mhm.
Mrs. Coretta Scott King says, struggle is a never ending process. Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation. That's Mrs. Coretta Scott King.
Mm.
So that's our charge, y'all.
Thank you. I'm in it to win it. I was famous for saying winning, and that behind every man, there's a strong woman, or even
Yes.
as strong. And I don't, what do you, okay, I'm going to switch gears here real quick because we're going to wrap up. Um, do you watch reality TV? I was obviously on The Bachelor and our worlds are colliding now. I'm a hopeless romantic and I've heard that you've been married 3 times. If you're comfortable talking about that, I would love to get any tips on relationship, marriage advice, since we're, trending off of this power couple. Um, and are you single?
Okay. Remember, I'm just saying. With that being said, so my first husband, I've met as a musician. He was a musician, and because we were both in music, we started this band together, got married after a month of dating.
What did your
Mhm.
mom say about that?
She didn't have much to say because the day I called and told I was getting married, was the day she met him. Okay, so that's how that went. But we were married 10 years, but I'm going to tell you,
That's a
it
long
was,
go after a month. I mean, hey, when you know, you know. Do you believe in that?
I do. But you know something? One of my dear older friends told me that people come in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime.
Mm,
And when I looked back after I'd been married 3 times, I looked at the first marriage and I said, okay, that was for a season because it taught me some lessons about me. And then it taught me some lessons about being married and what the expectations are when you're in your 20s.
yeah.
Because now some of those things that were important to me then are not important now. And other things that were not, I mean, were important then are very important to me now.
Hmm.
And so I'm a 69-year person who is now having conversation with the 23-year-old of me.
Oh,
And now that I'm here, I can look back, having gone through the suicide and having time to really think things over. I can really say thank you now. And in those broken places, God has pieced them back together and continues to heal me so I can reach out to others. But I think many times in marriage, our expectations of other people are really selfish because they are our own desires of what we want. But
mm,
partnership in a marriage is a partnership. And sometimes the goals of what you started off with, they change because life changes. And you have to be willing to, both of you have to be willing to be flexible with it. The second marriage, I married a drug addict. And
no.
I was married to him, let me see, I think it was 3 months.
Oh
And
boy.
I got that annulled.
Okay, so maybe that one doesn't even count.
Well, according to annulment, it doesn't count.
Okay, good.
But that was another experience for me to learn, and to learn in that one, I learned also that you cannot change other people. You can only really try with the help of God to change you, but you cannot change other people. And then my third husband was 37 years my senior. I
Oh,
married an older man
good for
that I
you.
that my family had known for years. And when I graduated from Spelman, he gave me a 3-piece jade set, earrings, necklace, and bracelet. Who does that?
Mm.
Little did I know, years up the road, he would end up being my husband. And I thank God for Francis. By the time I married him, though, he had health issues.
Oh no.
So yeah, I loved him, but I married him too for convenience and for security on some level, in that sense that I was tired of choosing myself.
Hmm.
And so I felt he was really a comfortable
Oh,
selection, and he was just that. Even to this day, I can still hear his voice
oh.
saying, speaking to me about different things and certain things that he enjoyed doing, come back, so often. And so his name was Francis. He was just a cool, retired Army captain that I just thought, really helped to impact my life in such a great way. And so I've not married since then. 1995, he passed away. And I haven't really dated anybody since then. And like you were saying, I know my first husband tried to come back. He tried to call me
Oh,
and want to be
he
free.
boomerang back. He's still in the mix.
Yeah, but I told him no. I said, we've been married. What is it that you're expecting this time around? And I said, no, I can't come back. My whole being and life has moved on. So I'm just saying that to you and to all of you to say sometimes many people find renewing because both people would have changed in ways that allow them to come back. But for me, this was not that type of circumstance. And so I'm so thankful and grateful for where God has brought me now in my life. And I'm living my best life. and I get
Mm.
to travel the world with my two sisters. So we travel a lot. That's another thing I want to share with people. Get out and as much as you can. You don't always have to spend a lot of money, and you don't have to always go way out
Yes.
around the world, but go places and experience other cultures and embrace other people and have different conversations because all of our humanity is based in just being a human being. So this year we went to Japan and to South Korea. You
What?
talk about beautiful people. They are gracious, they are honorable, and mild mannered.
Mm.
And we just had a wonderful time touring. We had
Mild
four,
mannered. I like that.
yeah, and they make good use of small spaces. You won't see big cars there, and their homes are not these big spreads.
That is
It's
so,
modest.
that sounds like a blast. I mean, I'm in a phase of life where I have three little kids. Did you ever have kids? Do you have kids?
No, out of three marriages, I never had children. God gave me everybody's.
Oh, that's good because then when you're ready to leave, you can be like, sayonara.
That is true.
But that's so interesting. And I listened to you on another episode and I was gonna ask you what you love to do, but you talked about just like going to a park and relaxing and watching your shows, which is something I really enjoy doing, the simple pleasures. And, I can get a little guilt when I just feel like I'm so drained. I just need to like relax and binge watch some true crime or Bridgerton, whatever it is, whatever show it is. And the way you spoke of it really kind of made me feel at peace of like, okay, like it's okay to recharge your social batteries.
Oh, yes. And it's important that we do it. I didn't always understand that either, Courtney, but you must take time, what I call downtime, to just let your body get relaxed, or whether it's through music. Like this
Mhm.
afternoon, I have booked a massage.
Oh,
So, yeah,
lucky.
that's a part of health, good health. And I can't say I like walking, but I like going outside, being out in the elements, whether it's at the beach, go sit at the beach or go stand along
Mm.
the beach and listening to water. Love
Oh.
music. Yeah, I love singing. Singing
Mm.
music just soothes
Let's
my soul.
let's get an album out there for you. I can't wait to see what happens next. Let's get your book, let's get your social media, what's manageable for you. I don't, we all have our own map of the world, but Wanda, you are such a gift. And I guess to wrap things up, my last question would be, what keeps you hopeful and what worries you the most when you look at where we are at today?
Well, let me say that what worries me the most today is waking up on any given day and they're coming too frequently in the devastation of humanity against one another that's happening, whether it be through crimes in our community. When I hear of families that are perpetrating, all type of violence against one another, that breaks my heart still. And just watching our political scene in our country right now, what is happening is so. I'm praying every day, God, please help this administration. Please get us positioned to vote out this administration and everybody who believes like that, because it is so toxic to the unity of humanity. And so I'm just saying, honestly, that's how I feel. But at the same time, I'm praying so that God, they need you just like I do. Please, bring a change. Help us to change from within every day. And I must say, we must choose to be happy, Courtney. Everybody wakes up and you have to choose. So I choose not to watch the news every day. I
Mhm.
choose because I like my peace.
Mhm.
So I choose to find joy in talking to people and calling and sharing a lunch or something with people, you know, as much as I can. But find your happiness. You've got to do that. It's nobody else's responsibility. Choose to be happy.
Yes, yes, I am so happy to end on that note. And I always say, nobody's coming to save you. You got to choose happiness every day. Wanda, thank you for sharing your time, your memories, your work. This conversation has filled my cup, and it's a great reminder that history isn't just something we read, it's something that people lived, and we need to continue living. And I've just really enjoyed your company today. So, thank you so much. And where can everybody find you? Obviously, I don't know if you do social media, your legendary tours. Can you share your website and where people can follow along?
Yes, my website is wandahbattle.com. WandaHbattle.com. Or you can write to me on my email. It is it is contact.
Contact.
That's right. Contact. CONTACT at WandaHbattle.com.
Mm.
So give me a little shout out if you'd like to tour with me, come visit Montgomery, or just to say, hey.
Well, you're single. I bet that there's guys hitting on you on your tours. Let's get you sign you up for the next Golden Bachelorette. Wanda, you go enjoy your massage, and I will put all this information in the show notes as well. And we'll have you back another time, I'm sure.
Well, everybody say arigato.
Arigato. Keep shining your light, Wanda. I love you. You're beautiful.
Thank you for this time. Okay.